happened kind of quietly, but criminal justice reform is a thing now. No, it's not just Colin Kaepernick going around the country educating kids about how they do not have to talk to cops, how they have rights, how cops are their enemies. And it's not even just Van Jones, that guy on CNN that's telling people that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. No, there's lots of Republicans on this bandwagon too, even in the White House. Jared Kushner, the president's son, he's the one leading the charge for criminal justice reform, which at the base of it says this: black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. That's why there's so many black people getting arrested. That's why there's so many black people getting convicted. That's why there's so many black people ending up in prison. That's why there's so many black people staying too long in prison. And once they get out of prison, they go back too quickly. Criminal justice reform is going to change all that by arresting fewer black people, sending them to jail and prison for shorter periods of time, and that will straighten everything out. But one of the things the people, well, the biggest thing the people, the only thing the people behind criminal justice reform don't come to terms with, just cannot come to terms with, is this level of black violence and criminality so wildly out of proportion. It gets to a point where you can't blame the cops forever for this level of black crime and violence that we see every day, over and over and over and over and over. Like these two stories. I mean, are these two stories outliers, or do they represent what we know to be true in many, many places around this country?
Montgomery County cop hailed a hero tonight over what happened last night. One key here, he patrols with his windows rolled down and his ears on high alert. And so tonight a woman is alive and well because of it. Fox 29's Don Timothy's live at the Lower Chichester Police Department. Picks up the story from there. Don.
Well, Lucy, the officer gets emotional when he thinks about what happened because he says it could have been someone in his family. He's just glad he was in the right place at the right time.
And as I pulled out of the parking lot, that's when I heard like a faint scream.
And the screams kept getting louder and louder as Officer Tim McBride got closer to the intersection of Ridge and Market in Lower Chichester. It was about 12:30 last Thursday night. McBride on routine patrol, quickly determining the commotion was coming from Stella's Cleaners.
The door was open, and when I entered, it's something I always remember until I retire.
McBride says a man, now identified as 56-year-old Richard Simmons, was behind the counter on top of a woman who was screaming for her life.
She was very scared. She said that I thought he was going to kill me. Exact words, she said, I thought he was going to kill me.
McBride says he drew his weapon, ordering Simmons to stop and get on the ground, but says the suspect started coming towards him. That's when McBride says he put his gun in his holster and tased Simmons, who fell to the ground as backup arrived.
If I wasn't there, I think we might be talking about a sexual assault or, God forbid, a homicide.
Chief Thomas Gaspari says it is one of the best pieces of police work he's seen in his 16 years here.
The hairs on the back of my neck actually stood up when I thought what could have happened and the quick actions that he took.
McBride, who always rides with his windows down, says he's just glad he heard the 46-year-old woman's screams and arrived in time.
Of course, people are calling me a hero. I'm just out there doing the job and protecting the community. That's all I want to do.
Now, the suspect was arrested just 2 days before this on robbery charges in Delaware. Police say he is a career criminal with a 62-page rap sheet and arrests in Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, and Maryland. He's being held tonight on $500,000 bail.
Breaking news for you tonight. Kansas City police are asking people in the community to stay inside, all because an accused murderer is on the run. This is 35-year-old Isaac Fisher. KCPD says he's responsible for a shooting spree that killed 3 people.
My recommendation would be to shelter in place, but the reality is Mr. Fisher have already demonstrated his disregard for life, and so caution is what I would encourage.
Police are actively looking for Fisher right now. They believe he shot and killed people in both Kansas City and Raytown. 41 Action News reporter Nick Starling is joining us live from South Patrol with the latest. Nick, what have you learned?
Dia KCPD says Isaac Fisher is the one who went around the metro today, killing 3 people, shooting 2 others, including a child. Now, we'll put his picture on the screen for you so you can get a good look at him right there. This is the man police say is very dangerous right now. Police don't want you to go up to him, confront him. They say to be vigilant until he is caught. This is the man Kansas City police say committed 3 murders on a rainy Sunday morning. 35-year-old Isaac Fisher, about 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. Police say he started his killing rampage shortly after 9:15 at a house on 90th in Kentucky. 1 woman found dead inside the house. Then police say he moved to Raytown and killed a man around 9:40 in the morning at this house at 57th and Elm Avenue. Police found 3 people shot, 1 adult dead, another adult and a child rushed to the hospital with gunshot wounds. Nearby neighbors frightened.
I heard 8 or 9 really loud explosions, basically. I knew it was gunfire right away.
But according to police, Fisher wasn't done. He went back into Kansas City at 112th and Eastern and killed another man. Police piecing together the string of murders and are confident Fisher is the man behind all of them.
Okay, here's a story out of Rochester. Interesting enough on its own terms. Guy with a long record, back in his hometown, shooting up the town. He gets shot and killed. That's interesting enough to include in this. But wait till you hear the money shot, wait till you learn about his record. Wait till you learn about his mom at the very end of this story.
Tonight, the search for answers after a massive manhunt. Rochester police say a man tried to kill his entire family. 3 people were shot, 1 of them killed. A police chase through city streets ended with a shootout. The suspect is dead. It's not clear if it was from one of his own bullets or shots from officers. Moments before, the suspect pointed a gun at our news crew.
I'm thankful that this incident was not more than what it was. And it was because of the bravery and the attention that our law enforcement officials displayed today.
The chaos put all city schools into lockout, and it set city, county, and state law enforcement racing into action. All of it started about 10 this morning on Post Avenue and ended about 2 hours later on the other side of town on Forester Street. 13 Wham's Amanda Valdez is live tonight. It is still a very active scene as we learn more about the suspect from his family members. Amanda?
Jenny, there are still a few officers that remain here behind me on Francis Street. You can see the street remains blocked off as police try to comb the area, searching for evidence to piece together what happened earlier today. Now, we did speak to Terrell Blake's aunt, and she says she is praying for everyone involved in today's shootings.
Overcome with emotion, holding back tears, Juliette Blake Levan is trying to come to terms with what happened to her family. Earlier today, she was on the phone with police as they chased Terrell Blake across the city.
And I called him and I was begging him, please don't kill my nephew. My nephew had mental illness.
Blake was her nephew, police identifying him as a man who was shot and killed on Forester Street after exchanging gunfire with officers.
I'm thankful that this incident was not more than what it was. And it was because of the bravery and the attention that our law enforcement officials displayed today.
Rochester police say Blake shot 3 people, including his son who survived and a woman who did not.
I'm so sorry for those people. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for the young lady.
She says her nephew and the woman who died had a child in common. She says he had moved to Georgia and come back to Rochester to be with his children. Today, Rochester police described Blake as a man on a mission.
And that he had made plans and made threats that he intended to go and kill his entire family.
Police believe Blake had the intention of killing more people. Hours later, streets in the North Goodman area still blocked off as police combed the streets to find evidence and speak to witnesses. Some neighbors say they heard gunshots from their homes earlier today.
I seen all different police departments chasing him, and all you heard was just multiple shooting back to back to back.
And Blake's aunt tells me he was a month shy of his 40th birthday. Rochester police say they are still working to find a motive behind today's shootings. For now, we're live in Rochester. Amanda Valdez, 13 Wham News at 10 on Fox Rochester.
And the suspect, Terrell Blake, has been in the news before. In 2002, we interviewed Blake after he was shot inside a corner grocery store in Rochester. And Blake's mother, Joy Powell, is a longtime anti-violence activist who is now serving time for burglary and assault charges.
So we don't have any answers from the people who talk about criminal justice reform for what we see here. We see a guy with a 62-page rap sheet coming up from the great state of Delaware to wreak some criminal havoc right across the border in a nice part of Pennsylvania. We see a guy in a place that used to be one of the great industrial giants in our entire country, where IBM, Xerox, Rochester, New York. This was the Silicon Valley before the Silicon Valley. Now it's just kind of a rotting hulk of its former self. Lots of black violence, lots of black criminality, lots of people shrugging their shoulders going, well, I can't figure out what's going on other than, well, we probably arrest too many black people. And so let's see if we can figure out how to fix that. That's criminal justice reform. That's a new word for the greatest lie of our generation, the greatest hoax of our lifetimes, the myth of black victimization. Keep an eye out for it. Keep an ear out for it. You'll see it every day. And if you say something about it, well, that's going to get a lot of black kids angry.